This is how you come down. Alright, woke up alive again. Woke up alive again. A little drizzly, a little chilly, really weird. Sarah's checking out the photos from this time last year, and all of the grass on the property was dead, brown, dried up, and we had the pool filled up, and it was really, really hot. Not right now. Now, what am I doing? Getting more voices heard. My friend Darren went back into that place where he had a little bit of a meeting, and they had even more things happen. I should probably have him on here and he can just tell me and everybody at the same time. I got an email back from another man. We're going to be on for Monday. A man who knows a lot, has experienced a lot. On Monday, Sunday, I've got that thing, and you know. What else? I don't know if prayers are going to help. Sarah, poor Sarah. Oh my God. She's had this French bulldog for like 13 years, going on 14 years. And last year he lost an eyeball. And now he's got the same thing going on, some tumor or something behind his other eyeball. And, oh, it's not looking good. This is going to be a tough time. Tough time. Her and that dog are like glue. Heartbreaking, isn't it? You know, pets, you know, we've all been through it. We've all been through it. I can still get a tear in my eye for loss of my horse. Frustrated I can't have him with me. He died young, though. And then when, you know, we got this other puppy here, Ruby. It's like, how old these dogs live again? She's like, well, you know, a little over 10 years. I'm like, oh, God. It's funny, their lifespan is so short, isn't it? It's really weird. But it is what it is, I guess. But after what I felt when my horse passed, that confirmed for me it's not it. It's not all she wrote. Not a chance. More proof for me that it's not all she wrote. So she's off to go for the surgery. She's just left. She's been up since 4:30 this morning. I guess we both have. She's gone off to the vet again to see what they can do to keep him around a little longer, but there's a chance he might not come back with her. That's the sad thing today. So she's not doing so good. So sending good thoughts and prayers Sarah's way today. Now we're going to hear from the late great Bobby Short again. What do we have here? Muncie, Delaware Nation. Chief William Little Soldier, chief of the Muncie, Delaware Indian Nation and resident of Cambridge, Ohio, contacted me with the expressed desire to report that the hair men look much more human than what had previously been reported through Grassman reports, and he was clear that they did not have a gorilla shape. There you go. In his statement, the chief said, 2 months ago I was putting out post markers on our property when I heard a large branch break. I turned in time to catch a glimpse of a creature walking away on 2 feet with hair all over its entire body. It was medium brown in color with thinning hair near its buttocks. The creature ran up an adjacent ridgeline where I lost sight of it. I never did see a frontal perspective, just the rear. I did measure its stride at over 8 feet. And it has 17-inch long feet. We have found 3 different sized Bigfoot tracks on the property adjacent to the tribe. Some were quite small and others were large. They all looked like a barefoot human track, except they were wider and flatter. Others in our immediate community that have found fecal matter that looks similar to giant human scat that nobody can seem to identify. Others have found 3 different sets of footprints in snow that looks like human footprints. I went to a local newspaper to discuss the issue with a reporter, and he claimed that there have been 22 sightings of Bigfoot in the Twin Sisters area. The sightings are of a creature that looks much, much more human than the Ohio grouse man. Bigfoot researcher Don Keating lives approximately 20 miles from me, but I couldn't contact him, and thus the reason I contacted Bigfoot Encounters. I wanted to report that this creature looks much more human than what has previously been reported through the Grassman reports. It doesn't have the gorilla shape. I've had 2 other Bigfoot sightings in California that I would like to report. There you go, here we go. Number 1. In June and July of '73, I was driving a GMC big rig carrying pallets and pipe northbound on Interstate 5, 3 miles south of the Oregon border. She's scratching herself a bed on the rug. Sorry. It was 1:30 p.m. on a clear, warm day with moderate traffic. 200 feet in front of me, I observed a creature running on 2 feet westbound to eastbound across the highway. It was very dark in color, had hair covering its entire body, and it was very big and muscular, like a very large bodybuilding male. I was able to view the creature for 15 to 20 seconds until it made its way into the forest line. A large number of vehicles pulled to the side of the roadway, and we discussed what we observed. We all agreed that we had just viewed a Bigfoot. I wonder how many of those people are here today watching this show. Number 2, in March or April of '79, I was traveling with my daughter from Red Bluff, Tehama Ranch, to the coast on Highway 36. It was a clear day when we started, and then it quickly got foggy as we crested the summit and headed onto the coastal side of the highway. It was near 10:30 a.m. as we went around a turn and saw small pine saplings swaying on the side of the road. We then saw a Bigfoot dart into the roadway approximately 20 feet in front of us. It also had hair over its entire body. It was dark in color and immediately crossed the road to the other side where we lost sight of it. We were just on the northwest fringe of the Yola Bola Wilderness area when we made this sighting. There you go. There's another, and another, and another. 2 sets of tracks found by Spirit Lake Sioux. This sighting was reported at Fort Totten, North Dakota, not far from Devil's Lake on the Spirit Lake Sioux Nation Reservation. Just before dawn in '78, I took this one lady back home. She lived in a treed section of town. I dropped her off and she went to her porch. She happened to look over to the side of her house porch, and that's when she saw the Bigfoot-like creature, which made her start screaming. She raced back to my car. The woman jumped in and told me what she had just seen. We went with her back to her house with a couple of friends and searched the area. We found footprints. The tracks were barefooted and measured around 13 inches to 16 inches in length. The woman only got a quick glimpse, but she described the Bigfoot as hairy, very tall, and its hair was brown and medium length. Signed, Silas Ironheart, January of '01. Bigfoot tracks, Wee Musk First Nation, Ontario. June 21st, '01. Large prints found in a forest on the shores of Hudson Bay indicate that Bigfoot, a large hairy man-like creature that has mystified people for decades, is alive and well in northern Ontario near Peewinuk. Abraham Hunter, the chief of the Wee Musk First Nation in Peewinuk, Ontario, some 1,100 miles north of Toronto, said he examined the footprints last week after a member of his community cited them. Each footprint was 14 inches in length, 5 inches wide. Chief Hunter said there were quite a few more tracks, more than 20 heading toward the river. The footprints were found by a community member of Peewinuk as he was driving a four-wheeler through the Polar Bear Provincial Park, one of Ontario's largest wildlife reserves on the south shore of Hudson Bay. The prints were some 2 yards apart, indicating that the creature had a very large running stride. 2 yards apart, and they were definitely not those of a bear. That bear would have had 4 different footprints, Chief Hunter said. The tracks headed toward the Winnisk River, which flows through Polar Bear Park. The creature left no hair on the shrubs as it passed, but the footprints sank quite deep into the soil, indicating the Bigfoot was big and heavy. It's not just in one area it's just not in one area that the footprints were sighted, Chief Hunter said. There's about 3 different areas. One about 3 kilometers, 2 miles away, and another 2 kilometers. Away. And these were not the first sighting. About 20 years ago, there was a sighting about 25 or 20 kilometers downstream. In fact, the creature itself was sighted about 20 years ago, but it was not until the next day that people in the area went to the spot and did find footprints, 16 inches in length. It looked like a man. Was very hairy, according to Chief Hunter. In Toronto, Brett Kelly of the Ontario Natural Resources Ministry said an area supervisor for the ministry and 2 other people visited the spot where the latest footprints were found and took photographs. Excuse me. They are sending the photographs down for us to have a look. Apparently, there have been 16 other sightings in the province of Ontario in different areas, including Algonquin Park, the far west of the province, but mostly in the north. In the latest sighting, I think it's quite heavy because it left... In the latest sighting, quote, I think it's quite heavy because it left quite a deep footprint, but there's no estimation of what the actual size of it is, end quote. After the sighting near Pewanuk, the ministry staff saw a second set, some 150 kilometers, 93 miles east. With regard to indigenous people of North America, there are some tribal traditions that hold them closed mouth about the stories of the big people. Other nations are more open and quite willing to discuss Bigfoot with the white men in research. Interestingly, some are not so willing to share even the idea that the big people of the forest exists. According to traditions, that is how it should be. Qu'Appelle Valley in Saskatchewan. The Qu'Appelle Valley is home to the Plains Cree, the Saulteaux, and the Dakota Indians. It was also occupied by Gross Ventures at Sinna. Dr. Peter Rubick, a marine biologist in Florida, shared some interesting data with me in 2004. His informant, a woman who in 2003 exchanged emails with a First Nation man in Alberta, Canada, wrote down his observations. The subject of Sasquatch special powers was at the time an ongoing, if not rather spirited discussion on the deeply paranormal BFNA list by John Eric Beckyard. In the following excerpts, a First Nation man is responding to questions put to him by Dr. Peter Rubick. Rubick, quote, what special powers are attributed to the Sasquatch, if any? Specifically, the ability to confuse or hypnotize humans? Question mark. Oh, here we go. The Alberta First Nation man replied on October 4th with the following. That's some question. I think you're referring to Bigfoot? If that's so, then I have to say no. The interesting part of your question does bring back a memory of an incident when I was 9 or 10 years old. We had a trap line which stretched erratically through the forested area near our home. Sometime in January, my mother and I were walking this trap line. We came across a trail coming from the northwest going southwest. At first, we thought a horse had traveled there. On closer inspection, we found that there were footprints. The problem with this is that they were very large, like a super large human. My mother put both feet in one track, heel to toe, and there was still plenty of room all around. Then she stepped off the distance between the footprints. It took 3 of her steps before she reached the other imprint. The heel to toe imprints were very clear in some of the step marks. All she said then was some native word, looked around and said, let's go. We went home right then without checking the other traps. Today we bring that topic up once in a while. she'll say that the Indians knew about them, Bigfoot, for a long time. I hope I may have shed some light on your question. The next correspondence was dated the same day, only later. Rubik, subject, more info from my Indian contact. Quote, I thought of mentioning this to you in the last email, but your question was specific. Did I see one of the creatures? At the beginning of August, I received a phone call from a friend of mine who lives in the Qu'Appelle Valley in Saskatchewan. The valley spans 3 Canadian provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Throughout its system, it is connected by rivers and lakes. Along the shores of the system are located many First Nation reserves, Indian-owned land. The person who phoned me said that a hunter from their reserve was in the hills overlooking the lake. It was early morning, and down below along the shore, he saw a family of 5 of the big creatures, a male and a female, and 3 smaller ones. He watched them from this hilltop for about 3 hours before they went back into the hills. Although he had a rifle with him, he said he never thought of using it. He said they looked very human and exhibited many human characteristics. Same with their anatomy. They were reddish-brown in color. The male and female were approximately 7 to 8 feet tall, and the smaller ones from 5 feet and smaller. Over the years, several people have seen them. They let them go about their business. I asked if they reported this sighting to the media. They said no. It was thought that they should be left undisturbed. I just thought I would answer your question with more depth and confirmation. Let me know if you want a better description of what this hunter and several of his friends saw. Then, on October 7th, 2003, Rubik's First Nation correspondent wrote, quote, sorry I couldn't get back to you a little quicker. I was in meetings during the weekend and most of today. I have not yet contacted my mother on the name she said when she seen the tracks. I'll find out and email that to you. It is obvious that she knew what she saw that day. She has told the family some of the stories that her people handed down to her through the generations. One of them was before the Europeans came into this country. Her people, the Assiniboine, Nakota nations, and their territories spanned a large area from what is now central Alberta, from the base of the Rocky Mountains southward to the Little Rockies, upward through Manitoba, through part of North Dakota, and northward to the North Saskatchewan River, and from there back to the mountains in Alberta. During the winter months, they would make their camp at the base of the Rocky Mountains. She said for several winters, the big man of the mountains came to her people's camp. They had a teepee for him. He mingled with the tribe and apparently got on very well with them. They could understand each other well, and the big man told them many things. In the spring, when they would leave to continue their travels, the big man would return to the mountains. This went on for many years, and occasionally he would bring others of his kind with him. When settlement of the area became the norm, his visits became less and less. One season, he never returned. I thought this is a rather odd story at the time, till one day I was researching the elder statement of Treaty Number 7 in Alberta, and one of the elders from the area made mention of this. So I believe that this is true fact. You mentioned that when you see them, that you have a difficult time concentrating or focusing your attention. I was speaking to an elder from the province of Manitoba about them one time, about 5 years ago. I asked him how it was that nobody can get close to the big ones. What he told me was that they had the hiding medicine. When they want to stay hidden, they can. And when they want to show themselves, they do. Your research sounds very interesting. There are a lot of things we don't know about in this world we live in. The signature of the First Nation man was concealed. Dr. Peter Rubik, Florida, 2003. So much information. So much honest knowledge has been available for so long. But for some strange reason, the powers that be don't want your children to know about it, or you, right? Should I keep going? I could read this for frickin' ever. It's not hard, is it? You got to give Bobby a lot of credit for what she did over her lifetime, don't you think? on and on and on. All right, we'll leave it at that because this just cracks open a whole new chapter and it just keeps going. So much shared by First Nations, indigenous communities around North America, and more in this book. I mean, pages. I'm still on the Squamish Nation, Lumi Nation, the Ponca Nation, Mackenzie River region, slave natives, Eskimo, Ojibwe, Grassy Narrows Reservation, the Cree Nation, the Tillamook, the Nehalem of Oregon, Teslin, Tlingit Council, Whitehorse. That's the Yukon. South Dakota, Standing Rock Reservation. Yep. Pages and pages and pages of thousands of people's testimony about something that doesn't exist in its folklore. Oh my God. Brutal, huh? Not anymore. Not anymore. Now, what's going on today with this topic that is fairy tale? One thing consistent. This knowledge is available in your face, and it's been non-stop since the beginning of time. Our time anyway, without a doubt. Right? Ooh, this sounds interesting. It sounds familiar. I haven't read this, but this is a follow-up. Steve McLeod here from my sighting in southeast Alaska. Bracket. Pregnant Sabe eating clams and bracket. This shit never ends. I remember that sighting. First off, Steve, I want to say thank you again for this platform. I've learned more from listening to the people than I have anywhere else on this planet. Same. That's got to tell us something, right? That's a big, strong message for humanity right there on any topic. The more my puzzle gets filled in, the bigger my puzzle gets. Yeah, me too, but you keep digging. First off, all I'd like to say, my first impression of that pregnant female in southeastern Alaska, it looked like an ape. Oh. But let me reassure you, she was not an ape. She is some sort of primitive human being. By her actions and movements, she is definitely a human of some sort. And I don't know what. Excuse me. I just wanted to make that clear. Now, I've been living in East Texas for 14 years now, and at this location for 7 years. Within the first month of living at this location, me and my friend experienced a smell like nothing we've ever experienced before. It was the end of August 2017. This home has a door leading from the living room to the garage. And once you step into the garage, you're facing south. To your left is another door. This door opened to the back of the house going to the shop, 20 feet away. This door was always left open for the dog to go in and out of the garage. The smell was so strong that it literally burnt your sinuses and made your eyes water. My friend immediately started coughing and then turned around and went back into the house, closing the door. That's crazy. That's almost like ammonia, hey? That's like strong, almost like the reaction to what strong ammonia or chlorine even would be, right? That's a little alarming. I sent a 50-pound bag of dog food in that corner, I guess you meant set, between the living room door and the back door going to the outside. I opened the bag and filled the dog's food dish, still keeping one hand over my nose and my mouth, then went back to the house. This was roughly about an hour and a half after sunset. The smell consisted of 3 parts, something that I've never experienced before or since. The first part was like a homeless person that had not showered or cleaned their body for years. Every has experienced this at least once in your life. Okay, I think you meant everyone has experienced this at least once in your life, whether it's to be Walmart or whatever, mixed with wet dog smell. The second part was like as if you were to rent out the lower half of the outhouse. What? Let me read that again. The second part was like as if you were to rent out the lower half of the outhouse. And then the third part was like you had walked up on an animal that was bloated and decaying. And you were within a few feet of it. The smell of death. The smell was so intimidating it made you want to just run away from it. I've never felt that experience ever. Even in the 16 years that I was with the military. In 2 days later, going outside to check on the dog dish, which is one of those big rubber stock feeding bowls, that would hold a week to 10 days of food for the dog. This bowl was gone. I found it outside the backyard, empty. But also, the 50-pound bag of dog food was no longer in the corner. It had grown legs and walked off. So, from that point on, I locked the back door and raised up the garage door to allow the dog to go in and out. A little over 2 years later, with no other experiences, I got full custody of 3 little ones. A 5-year-old boy, 2 girls, 7 and 9. This was the end of December 2019. By that spring, the girls were complaining of hearing someone tapping on their window. I would go with the flashlight. I could not see anything. The Cocker Spaniel wiener dog had passed away that following summer. Shortly before I got custody of the children, I had picked up a little female blue heeler pup, so over the last 4.5 years, this location has activities 2 or 3 times a week. From early spring to late fall. It seems like during the wintertime there's no activity. I've literally heard something large running across the roof of this house, running from south to north twice. The girls have heard it running and stomping on top of the roof over the bedroom 2 or 3 different times. And the boys heard it a couple of times himself, along with window tapping. See, that's not cool. That's very not cool, that kind of shit. As soon as you hear kids and windows, not good. And every time I go outside using the torch, I cannot and do not see any sign or evidence of anything. Now that the blue heeler is an adult, I can tell when these things are around because she will not come out of the garage and she will lay on her bed and growl. I normally go to bed around 9 o'clock at night and I'm back up at 2 o'clock in the morning to do my design work and have my coffee. That's my time. The first time I was growled at, it caught me totally off guard. It was the spring of 2022 and I was working on my designs work somewhere around 2:30 a.m. And somewhere around 2:30 a.m. I kept hearing my dog Lady growling a very deep toned growl. My recliner rests up into the corner fairly close to the wall and her bed directly on the other side. So after 4 or 5 minutes of hearing her growl, I assumed that they were either a possum or a dog eating her food. So getting up with just shorts on, grabbing my torch, opened the door to the garage and find nothing. As I walked to the garage door and bent down and walked under it, I trying to get her to come with me. She wanted nothing to do with it. So as I walked around the south end of the garage and came around the corner between the back of the garage / shop, seeing nothing. So turning east, walking next to the shop and another 2 outbuildings, the last of which is a small tractor garage, which is only about 40 feet from the edge of the shop to the back of the tractor garage, going up a 4-foot incline, which placed me within about 5 feet of the back of the metal tractor garage. Shining my torch as I moved along, I heard a growl. That chilled me to my core. My body reacted in such a way that I raised my right leg up and crossed over against my left leg to protect my private area. Wow. The location of this growl was roughly 5 to 6 feet away from me on the back side of the tractor garage. And here I am standing there with a flashlight and a pair of shorts on and nothing else. And nothing else on feeling extremely vulnerable and a little concerned. This growl lasted 4 to 5 seconds. The growl was on an exhale only, and at this point I didn't need any mind speak or mind melt. I got the point. I remember saying out loud, "Okay, all right, I'm leaving." And I backed my hairy ass all the way to the house. This growl is something that I've never heard before. It was a guttural growl, extremely low and deep, that seemed to travel through my entire body. It did not sound like a tiger, nor did it sound like a lion, because both of them, when they growl with an exhale and an inhale. So now, May 2024, Dylan, the youngest, we were out raking the yard in the back, and he found a track under a gum tree that was 7 inches by 3.5 inches. With a very deep heel print, almost round shape. Thinking it was one of the kids' footprints. It was not. Both girls are over 9.5 inches and Dylan's is 8. Pictures sent. Now 5 days ago, June 6, 2024, kids have been gone for 15 days to their mother for half of the summer break. My blue heeler started her low growl at about 10 o'clock in the evening. Not knowing what she's growling at, again I grab my torch. Now I'm fully dressed and I go outside and I try to get her to come with me. And she refused. So as I walked the same route as I did the first time, I got growled at. I, noticing the light sensors come on, but the lights were turned upward. I had put 4 motion sensor lights out back to cover the entire backyard. And now every one of those lights was pushed straight up. No shit. And they were coming on. But they were shining straight up in the air. So, taking a different route, instead of going in the back of the tractor garage, I went along the sunroom, going north to where the girls' bedroom is located, shining my damn light to see whatever I can see. This is at the dark of the moon. No moon out. Pitch black. And as I was getting ready to round the corner of the sunroom, I heard another freaking growl. Next to the girls' bedroom. This growl lasted for 5 to 6 seconds. Same tone, same depth, same deep guttural growl. The shock wave went through my body, and I instantly felt like I had to piss. I instantly got nauseated, like I was going to throw up. I don't know what I said out loud, I don't remember. I'm sure that a few profanities words went flying, and I turned around and walked back into the house. I am so sick of this shit. Over the last 5 years, I've been polite and kind and telling them as long as they didn't startle or scare the shit out of me or the children, they were welcome. That has all ended. So now every time I go outside, I tell them that they're not welcome here. They don't need to be here. There's nothing here for them to stay away. And if we have a confrontation, I'm going to do what I can to blow the biggest mother freaking hole through them. I don't let the kids stay out after dark. When the light pole light comes on, they're in the house. I know they're upset with me because they can't play outside after sunset. But I really don't give a shit. Safety is first, all the way across the board. I'm adding more motion sensor lights out back. They are on steel poles that will be at least 16 feet off the ground. I just ordered 10 boxes of 12 gauge Magnum 3-inch 655 grain slugs traveling over 1,600 feet per second with muzzle energy of 3,800 foot-pounds. So, yesterday I was cooking dinner and the TV was on, National Geographic, and heard the sound that's the closest to that son of a bitch growl. I ran into the living room to see and hear a bull elephant in musk make the same deep guttural growl. No shit. First soundtrack, tiger/lion. Second soundtrack, bull elephant in musk. I don't know what that means. I guess ruh. And 3 and 4 pics of the small human-like track under the tree. Again, be safe in this effed up world we live in. Thanks to you again, Marvin McLeod. And P.S. for you, Steve. Oh, I think so. Oh, the hat clips. Yeah, that was a year ago, or wasn't it? Got them. And we sent off a bunch of people with hats. All right, man. Appreciate you. Sorry, guys. So anyway, take care, my friend. Just be safe. This world is so messed up. It's not even funny. And I believe that there's far more dangerous things out in this world than the Save. Yeah, there's some weird shit going on, man. Now, where is... Okay, I'm going to have to crack open your email to find the attachments because they show up when I put in my notes, just so you guys know. The links show up like this for photos or video. And then usually if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the photos in the bottom, but they're not there. So I'm going to have to Google it. I have to crack open my inbox and get them out of there. And I should be able to do that and I'll add them to the video. All right? So I can't comment on the photos in the video right now, obviously. Turning the motion lights up. I don't think I've heard of that one before. Definitely had trail cameras moved. I've had a trail camera slid around a tree intentionally the same day that my friend and I discovered all those broken down off trees and uprooted trees and stomped down grass. And he heard the wood knocking when I didn't hear shit. But that was the one time that I did find one of my trail cameras, and I had to reach up, I had to stand on a root, so that the root put me about 12 inches higher than me. So the root put me at about just over 7 foot in height, and then I had to reach up as far as I could to get to my trail camera. So 7, 8, 9 feet up, a little better. And it was fully the strap, and the camera was smoothly spun around. The tree was a big one like that. And the camera spun around to face the tree beside it, which was about 2 feet away from it. But anyway, why are they doing that? Why they persist in tormenting your private property immediately in your intimate zone, which is within your frickin' fence, your yard, tapping on the kids' windows, growling and warning you. Who comes up and warns a man in his home? That should be, typically has been, probably the worst thing you could ever do, especially if it's a father of children, right? And especially rural. That combination usually equals firearms, guns in that home. I mean, let's face it, you guys, you cannot provoke a grown man to come and do some very nasty things to you more than threatening him on his home property. And doesn't matter, men or women. You're going to come and torment children through their bedroom window? You're asking to get dusted. Right? And of course, there's going to be those emotionally bent people. Well, your house is on their home. Shut the F up. The planet is all our own home. We just respect each other's intimate space, right? Being silly. What is it? What is it that's tormenting you, right? Who knows? I haven't a clue. I hope it ends. It's unfortunate Scott Carpenter passed away because he had he had a lot of success in helping people in rural properties deal with these odd things going on, these odd beings, these odd happenings going on private property. It sucks ass. I wish I was nearby. I'd come there and help if I could. I don't know. I mean, you've been hearing the people talk enough here. All I know is possibly using rebuking in Jesus' name has been proven to be effective. It's a pattern. Whether you accept that name or not, it's a pattern that brings success to thwarting invasive actions by these people, these beings, whatever it is. There's no denying it. So now what do you do? What would I do? I would put up trail cameras with infrared light myself. So far, that seems to be very effective. I would actually even maybe possibly get some, if there are some. I think there are. I think somebody sent me some links to infrared, specifically infrared lights. I would ring my frickin' property to those and turn them on high blaze. That's what I would do. And I'd leave them on 24/7. We can't see them. But remember, I'll forever so much appreciate the military pilot who wrote to me in confidence, trusted me that I wouldn't blow his personal cover. I mean, he shared everything with me about himself. Right down to where he lives, what his name is, where his rank is, where he's based out of, everything. Excuse me. And and made me promise I wouldn't share it publicly, which I didn't. But what he did share with us was the fact that they shined that IR light down on that being in Afghanistan in the middle of the night from, I believe it was over 2.5 kilometers, either kilometers or miles away. It's an American pilot, so it could have been miles. The number 5 rings a bell too. I'd have to dig up that email. But anyway, he said that by the time their IR beam hits the target, it is roughly 8 by 12 in a rectangle. And they said the second that IR light hit that being that was digging a hole in that field, the thing blocked its eyes like, oh my God, oh my God. You know, it was just like, holy shit. Couldn't block that IR beam from its eyes fast enough. And it triggered that being to get up and start booking it up the mountain. So, going by that knowledge, I would be ringing my property with is the most intense IR light I could find if they were tormenting my home and the bedroom windows of my children. Are you kidding me? Yeah, especially around. I probably have a beam coming from every single window of the house, enough to fry your hair if that's the reaction that IR light gives you, right? Running on the roof. How many people have emailed that one in? Running on the roof. Even seeing tracks and snow on the roof. I don't understand. Where I live, the snow load is incredible. Typically, well, not right here in Vancouver Island, but where I've been building and contracting for years in the community of Whistler and Pemberton, British Columbia, the snow load is absolutely huge. And the framing of the buildings is very, very sturdy. So then I could imagine something like one of these beings possibly being able to walk on a roof, no problem. But a regular house, especially in Texas, where you're not going to get 4 or 5 feet of snow, I don't know how homes are built, but how the hell is that holding these beings up, right? Some people have been in trailers and reported that kind of walking on the roof. That doesn't make sense at all. I've been on the roof of trailers myself in the past over the years, and remember walking gingerly thinking I might break something. You know? But anyway. There you go. Send us some updates, man. And all I know is from some sources, if you have to, if it comes down to it, apparently, if it's, I believe I've heard it from the when it comes to the dogman thing anyway, or whatever have you, the word on the street is, if you have to, shoot them in the head, don't stop, and then once they're down, sever their head. Apparently, I've heard that's the only way. There you go. That's all I got. Email us back with the update, all right? Please keep in touch with us and let us know how you're doing and what's coming, what's happened. Now, excuse me. Now, I'm going to go... I went down to the end of my red column, and I found a whole bunch that weren't marked as red. How that happens, I haven't a clue. You guys hear me every day when I say, okay, mark this one as red. Okay, now here's one that I know I read. I gotta get a hold of this guy again too, actually. I'm gonna put down email this guy. This is from the Remote Alberta Forestry Consultant, Encounters and Warning. Email him. I know they had a huge forest fire, went through their community when I was planning on going in the woods with those guys. That definitely put a big block up, and I haven't heard from those guys since, and I want to hear back from them. So I just wrote to email that guy. Give me a second. Oh no, what's this? Can I read this? All right. Mark, this is red. This came in last year. Puzzle piece, please read. Hi, Steve. My name is Darren. I'm from Southern Ontario and spent my entire life living along the Niagara Escarpment. I've had many experiences in my 55 years and will email them in at a later time. This email is directly related to my 4th experience when I saw an approximate 8-foot shimmering blur pass in front of me, leaving 15-inch bare footprints. How alarming would that be? This sent me into a world of trying to figure out what it was and how it could do it. No doubt. About 6 years ago, I stumbled across a video where a researcher had discovered that his sample sabe hair, when it still had the hair follicle attached to it, would become translucent and shimmery when a small electric charge was applied to it. Read this before, but I'm going to read it again. He did this by having the hair and follicle in an oxygenated liquid in a small petri dish. At the time, I was still blind and I thought they were an ape. I didn't believe it, so I ignored it. My eyes hadn't been opened yet. Last week, I came across another researcher. I know you don't really like that term. Oh, I don't mind it. But this has his eyes open, accepting these are humans and can do things we can't. He also found the sabe hair, when the follicle is attached, there's a liquid. When you push on the follicle, extends up the hair shaft, which he shows under a microscope, and the hair has little holes that the liquid comes out of. Wow. Then he demonstrates with UV light that the hair became opaque and shimmers like the predator. As he says, now multiply it times a couple 100,000 hairs and you would get that predator appearance that he has seen in so many others. I will attach a picture of the hair doing this effect. Now that I have grown the cojones, Steve, to contact you, I will forward my experiences. This started as a child growing up and playing in the woods along the Niagara Escarpment, all the way up to my face-to-face through a window as an adult in Muskoka in Ontario. Stay safe, my friend. Thank you for the voice you provide. And as my grandfather always told me, keep asking questions and question everything. Choose only the answers that your gut tells you are true. Darren. P.S. For you, Steve, it was extremely hard to stop the video and screenshot the best picture of the hair shimmering. All right, man, I got you. Excuse me. And there you go. That took some digging and some a lot of luck involved too, right? Figuring that one out. First, you got to get a hold of that hair. So, man, now my wheels are turning. My brain always refers to a contributor here from British Columbia who emailed me personally and told me flat out near Half Moon Bay, British Columbia, that he saw this 8-foot plus being, possibly 4 feet wide of the shoulders, looking out from the side of a tree into the night vision, not thermal, night vision, and then ducked back behind the tree, but the tree was only about 6 or 8 inches wide. And as he went behind the tree, disappeared. So, when you hear someone who has discovered what the hair, what the follicle will do, I think I saw that video too, then you apply it to that one example of that man who emailed me about the being just disappearing behind a 6 or 8 inch tree. That's just one of dozens and dozens of similar experiences people seeing that shit go down. So, combo that up with what we just read out loud. Okay, so if that's what you're doing, then is the possibly the energy you are emitting to make the hair follicles excrete the fluid that messes with the camouflaging actions. Does the energy from the tree help ignite it as you go this way? Is the rest of you coming out the other side of the tree with all those fluids coming to the hair follicles, from the hair follicles, squeezing up to the tips, causing the predator look? Not making any sense. Do you know what I mean? How do they if that is the answer, what's going on when these beings are becoming translucent or invisible? Then how is it that they can govern it to only happen as you're going behind a tree while the rest of you is apparently exposed to a human eyeball, but you can't see it. That just makes sense there? You know what I mean? That's confusing for me. So I don't know. Was there two different actions going on? Is there one thing going on where they can just make themselves reflect light so that we can't pick them up, yet they're still right there in front of us leaving footprints? All right, there we go. We've had that shared here a lot of times. But what's happening when one of these people ducks behind a tree in the timber and the tree's not even thick enough to cover their arm normally, and then they just vanish? I have a funny feeling my gut's telling me that's two different things going on. Both alarming, both bizarre, both we can't wrap our beans around yet. Anyway. Anyway, there you go. Lots to think about. Let's see. What else do I got? One more. Here's another one not marked as red. Sorry. Oh, it's a short one. Excuse me. Alright. I'm going to cut her off there, actually. Excuse me. I'm going to cut it off there because I still have to go back. I just remembered I got to go back, dig up that email, and find the video photos to add into this video. See how I forget so easily? Just keep reading and reading and reading. And then you throw it in and deliver it, and you forget to do that. So I'm going to do that now. And then next up today, I'm going to do what I think I shared yesterday I was going to do. I'm going to finally make an explanatory video to the hunting community. Actually, I'm going to do it for people that know me, friends of mine, and the hunting community, and I'm just going to address this topic to them and get them up to speed, because I've never done that. Ever. So I'm going to do it. And I was motivated after spending a handful of days with that bear hunter who was a forestry tech for years, and he has zero, not even a half a question about this topic the whole time I spent with him, which is fine. Expected most of the time when I'm with people, but he sent me his video production. I looked at the comments and saw a handful of them saying, "Is that Steve that talks about Bigfoot all the time?" Etc., etc. And I think it's, with the knowledge that I've gathered through all of you, I think it might be time that I'm just going to do it. I'm going to finally send a video out to the general public on all of my pages, channels, and I was going to say, hey, this is what happened to me. This is what I've done. This is what it became. There's no way out of it. It's very true. It's real. And I've done my job, and I've shared with you the truth. There you go. So that they know, instead of hearsay or just simply, is that the guy that talks about Bigfoot all the time? No, this is a guy that delivers absolute hard truth to people that he cares about, especially people in the outdoors. So I'm gonna do it. So things I will be saying in that video, all of you would have heard before. I'll warn you right away. But I guess I'll share it here as well, and you can do it the way you want. There you go. The email link is below to get your knowledge to the people through me. All right? That'll be sharemystory@howtohunt.com. If you're ready. If you're not ready, that's fine. We get it. I get it. I totally understand why you are possibly sitting right there, right now, looking at me, struggling with whether or not you are ready to or want to crack that open and share that experience you've had with me to share with the world. I get it. And that's okay if you don't. As long as you are here listening to the people, that's what we need. All right? As long as you're listening. So it helps you deal with the shit that you went through when you saw what you saw. Okay? But if you really want to and you're struggling to do it, it'll come. It'll come. You'll eventually get to that point where you're ready to let her rip, and we're going to be here for you. All right. And if not here, then just do it with somebody else, somewhere, somebody. All right. and get it off your chest and get it out in the open. Because on the average, from all the thousands of people that email here, I don't think I've heard from one person that wished they hadn't so far, okay? So, on average, so far, the pattern is people feel much, much better after getting it off their chest. There you go. ShareMyStory.howtohunt.com. There's a few other links down there in the description below as well. I'll be back tomorrow.